हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिने इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय। राधारमण हरि गोविंद जय जय राधारमण हरि गोविंद जय जय राधारमण हरि गोविंद जय जय। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय राधा गिरधारी राधे जय राधा गिरधारी राधे जय राधा गोपीनाथ राधे जय राधा गोपीनाथ राधे जय राधा रस बिहारी राधे जय राधा रस बिहारी राधे जय राधा बांके बिहारी राधे जय राधा बांके बिहारी राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ, जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा। जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ, जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा। जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी, नयन पथगामी भव तुम्हें। जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी, नयन पथगामी भव तुम्हें। जय जय गुरुदेव 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 गुरुदेव। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। निताई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल। बोलो श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन, यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरे वनचारी, यमुना तीर वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन, यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीर वनचारी, यमुना तीर वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया। भगवतीम् उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च। श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितां तं सहजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनीति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकाकांत राधाकांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण। Welcome everyone in Bhagavad Gita class. Thank you for joining us here in Bhagavad Gita class. So at present we are at chapter number 5, verse number 5.29. So 5.29 is the last verse of 5th chapter. After that we will start verse number chapter 6, verse number 6.1. So in chapter 5 we have seen Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. In 5.29 it talks about the peace formula. So what is 5.29? Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam ज्ञात्वा माम शांतिमरिच्छति। भोक्तारम यज्ञ तपसाम सर्वलोक महेश्वर. So here Lord Krishna is saying that everything is Lord. Whatever you sacrifice, it all goes to Supreme Lord Krishna. Okay, so what is the translation? A person in full Krishna consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities. the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material misery. So Lord Krishna is saying, the person who always remembers me, always whatever sacrifices, austerities they perform, all comes to me, and who knows that I am the Lord of all planets, all living entities, I am the benefactor and well-wisher of every living entity. The one who knows all these things, he is free from all material pangs. There will be no difficulty in material life. So the highest perfection of life, only devotional service. The highest perfection of life only can be awarded by only pure devotional service. Only pure devotional service can award peace to the human being. This is very, very clear. So if you perform devotional service, you will get actual real happiness, real peace, and that is known as real peace. So chapter 5, Lord Krishna is telling that practical application of Krishna consciousness, explains how karma yoga can give liberation. So your karma should be not related to the material nature. It should not be a ordinary karma kanda. It should be karma yoga. Yoga means what? Attaching to Krishna. So whatever karma activity you perform, it should be attached to Krishna, and that is known as karma yoga. So karma yoga, you are attaching to is Krishna. It means what? You are not expecting any benefit out of it. Whatever benefit, profit, fruits of action you get, you offer it to Krishna. Then it is known as karma yoga. Otherwise it is a ordinary karma that belongs to karma kanda. And if it is karma kanda, it belongs to three modes of material nature. So all the material activity are part of material nature, and material nature is part of three modes of material nature, that is goodness, passion and ignorance. So whatever activity you perform, it is related with these three modes of material nature. So explains, chapter 5 explains karma yoga only can give liberation. Karma yoga. So karma yoga, it means what? Action in full knowledge. So what is the perfect knowledge? Knowing about the perfect, knowing about the perfection. Who is perfect? Krishna. Only the Krishna, Lord Krishna, Supreme Lord Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead is the absolute. Krishna is absolute. So if you have knowledge about the absolute, it is known as complete knowledge, and that is known as karma yoga, action in full Krishna consciousness. So to work in Krishna consciousness means to work in full knowledge of Lord as the predominator, and such work is non-different from transcendental knowledge. Okay, so if you have knowledge about Krishna, so this knowledge is known as perfect knowledge, and this is also known as transcendental knowledge. So such work is non-different from transcendental knowledge. So if you have transcendental knowledge, that knowledge is perfect knowledge. That knowledge is perfect knowledge. Direct Krishna consciousness is bhakti yoga. Direct Krishna consciousness is bhakti yoga, and jnana yoga is path leading to bhakti yoga. Okay, so if you have knowledge, this knowledge is about Krishna, so this knowledge is jnana, and this jnana leads to the bhakti yoga. Okay, so what is the position of a living entity? Pure soul is the eternal servant of God as fragmental part and parcel. So every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna. Soul is part and parcel of super soul. Okay, so pure soul is the eternal servant of God as fragmental part and parcel. Cause of his suffering is contact with Maya, illusion due to desire to lord it over. Krishna consciousness process gives spiritual experience in material world. Krishna consciousness process gives spiritual experience in material world. Okay, so you can live in material world and you can also practice the spirituality. So Krishna consciousness is the process which we can perform while living in the material world. You don't have to leave the material world. So there are some conditions because of which you have to be in material world. So if you are in material world, it doesn't mean that you cannot practice spirituality. You can practice being in material world. Being in material world. Okay, so one has to execute work in terms of material necessities as long as one is in contact with matter. If you are in matter, so you have to perform some material activity. Okay. However, Krishna consciousness brings one into spiritual life while one is in the jurisdiction of matter. So it is very important while living in material world, you start practicing spirituality. If you start practicing spirituality, material nature will not touch you. You will not be affected by material nature. You will not be affected by three modes of material nature, that is goodness, passion and ignorance. Satogun, Rajogun and Tamogun. Okay, so this is very important. So Lord is not partial by reciprocates according to one's approach. Lord is not partial. Anyone can approach Krishna and Krishna will reveal himself according to one's bhakti, according to one's the quantity of bhakti. Okay, like you go in market to purchase something, you pay and then you get. If you pay more, you get more. If you pay less, you will get less. Similarly, Lord is not partial to anyone. The Lord reciprocates himself according to one's approach. How you approach Krishna. Okay, so when you look at Krishna, Krishna is there. Suppose Krishna is standing in front of you, and when you look at Krishna, you can see Krishna as you approach. At the same time, if another person is standing beside you, he can approach, he can see Krishna differently, and other third person can see Krishna differently. So Krishna reveals himself according to one's approach. How you see Krishna. Okay, so if you want to Krishna in two-handed form, you can see Krishna in two-handed form. If you want to see Krishna as your husband, Krishna will be standing as your husband. If you want to see Krishna as your wife, Krishna will be in as your wife. Whatever form you imagine, whatever you approach, Krishna will be standing in front of you in the same way, at the same time. So the Krishna reveals himself as one approach. So everything depends on one's practical performance of duties in Krishna consciousness. So duties helps one control the senses and conquer the influence of desire and anger. Conquer the influence of desire and anger. Okay, so if you involve in Krishna consciousness, your desire and anger are reduced. You get angry for Krishna, you desire for Krishna, you perform for Krishna, you think for Krishna. So whatever activity you do it in terms of Krishna. It belongs to Krishna. You work for the benefit of Krishna. You work, but fruit you offer it to Krishna. So steadfastness in Krishna consciousness and controlling the above mentioned passions, one remains in transcendental stage or Brahma Nirvana. Brahma Nirvana, Brahma Bhuta. It means once you start practicing Krishna consciousness, you start controlling your mind and intelligence. That stage is known as Brahma Bhuta stage. That stage is known as Brahma Nirvana stage. In 5.29, it is told that Ashtanga Yoga is automatically practiced in Krishna consciousness. When you, instead of performing Ashtanga Yoga separately, that is Yama, Niyama, Pranayam, and all these exercises, there are 8 steps in Ashtanga Yoga. So when you perform Krishna Bhakti, when you perform devotional service, automatically these 8 stages are performed in Bhakti Yoga. So Ashtanga Yoga is automatically practiced in Krishna consciousness. Ashtanga Yoga is a process of gradual elevation by 8 steps. These 8 steps only preface perfection by devotional service. Okay, Ashtanga Yoga is a process of gradual elevation by 8 steps. So these 8 steps only preface perfection by devotional service. So these 8 steps are preface of the devotional service. Okay, so this is the 5.29. After this, we will see chapter number 6. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. So we will start chapter number 6. Before that, we will summarize chapter number 1 to 5. Summary of chapter number 1 and 2. So chapter 1 talks about observing the armies. Dharma Kshetre Kuru Kshetre Samaveta Yussava Mamakaha Pandavasheva. Okay, so this is the 1.1. Observing the armies, chapter 1. So Krishna, Arjuna is confused. Confused means what? He is just standing in the battlefield and in front of his enemy. Who are the enemy? Enemy are his brother, father, sister, all the relatives. Okay, so looking at them, Arjuna denies that I don't want to fight. I cannot fight with my own brother. I cannot fight my own guru, the one who has taught me this archery. How can I fight with him, the one who has taught me? He is my guru. He is a respectable person for me. So Arjuna's reasons for not wishing to fight: compassion. He is very compassionate person. He cannot enjoy without them. So there is no enjoyment. Saintliness and fear of sinful reaction. If I kill so many persons standing in front of me, I will be part of sin. I will be performing sinful reaction. All sinful reaction will catch me. And destruction of family. If I kill the elder persons of the family like father, brother, their relatives, then women will be alone. Who will take care of their children? And if the man is not there, there are chances of Varna Shankara. Unwanted children, unwanted progeny will happen, and this will destroy the society. So I don't want to destroy, I don't want to kill. This is the reason, destruction of family. So compassion, enjoyment, saintliness and fearful of reaction, and destruction of family. Okay, then in chapter 2, Krishna answers few questions of Arjuna, like 2.6, indecision. There are 6 reasons of, there are 5 reasons of not fighting. Okay, so that is 6th is the indecision. Is not able to take decision. Okay, then Arjuna surrendered to Lord Krishna. 2.7. Karpanya doso pahata svabhava prechami tvam dharma sammoda cheta yachreyasan nischitam bruhi tanme shishya te aham sadhimam tvam prapannam Okay, so here in 2.7, Arjuna surrenders unto the feet of Supreme Lord Krishna. So Lord Krishna's feet is like lotus feet. Okay, like lotus flower. His Lord Krishna's feet is like lotus flower, and Arjuna had surrendered unto the lotus feet of Krishna. So now, if Krishna had surrendered, now Arjuna has become disciple from friend. Earlier he was friend of Krishna, now he has become disciple of Krishna. Now Krishna is Guru and Arjuna is disciple. Now Krishna will instruct. So as a friend, when he was friend, maybe that Krishna was not instructing, they were living like a friend. But now Krishna is Guru and Arjuna is disciple. So now Krishna will start giving instruction, many useful instructions throughout Bhagavad Gita that we have seen till chapter 5. Then in chapter 2, Lord Krishna summarizes all the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. So chapter 2 is the summary of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, chapter 1 is the talks about the confusion of this thing, observing the armies, and chapter 2 talks about the summary of Bhagavad Gita. The entire summary of Bhagavad Gita is summarized in chapter number 2. Since Arjuna was horrified at the thought of killing his relatives, Krishna begins his teachings. So because Arjuna was confused, so it was the duty of Krishna to instruct Arjuna as disciple. So Krishna tells about Sankhya philosophy in chapter number 2, then he tells about analytical study of matter and soul. Okay, so what is the Sankhya philosophy? Analytical study of matter and spirit soul. Soul is eternal, imperishable. Material body is inert and outer covering of soul. Then after Sankhya philosophy, it talks about Karma Kanda. What is Karma Kanda? If Arjuna dies in battle, he will be promoted to heaven. Okay, so Karma Kanda means what? It is not Karma Yoga, it is Karma Kanda. Karma Kanda means whatever activity you do, you expect profit, you expect result. Okay, so that is known as Karma Kanda. Karma Kanda means the activity which belongs to three modes of material nature. Okay, so Krishna is telling about Karma Kanda. If Arjuna dies in battle, he will be promoted to heaven. If he wins the battle, he will rule the earth, and dishonor will overcome him if he leaves the battlefield. So Krishna is telling all three things: if you fight, if you don't fight, and if you leave the battle. So these are all part of Karma Kanda. Okay, so if you fight, Krishna is telling that if you fight and you die in the battlefield, you will be promoted to heaven, because you died because of while performing your activity. If you don't perform your activity, it is as good as that you are died. That is not fruitful. But if you die in the battlefield while fighting with your enemy, that it means you did your duty. Then you are promoted to heaven. And Krishna is telling, if you fight and you lose the battlefield, or by luck, by chance you are died, you are killed in the battlefield, then you will be promoted to heaven. And if you win, then there is no question, you will rule the entire earth, you will be king of the entire planet. Okay, if you fight and you lose or you die in the battlefield, you are promoted to heaven. If you win, you will rule the earth. In the both the ways you are in benefit. Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna, in the both the ways you are benefited. And if you don't fight and you leave the battlefield and you go to just forest, okay, by sacrificing your life, everything, what will happen? You are a Kshatriya, you cannot leave the battlefield. Dishonor will overcome him if he leaves the battlefield. Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna, oh Arjuna, if you leave the battlefield, dishonor will come to you. People will say, oh Arjuna, if Arjuna is fearful, he is leaving the battlefield. He left the battlefield and went to forest. Okay, so for a Kshatriya, it is an insult. For a Kshatriya, it is an insult. It is as good as you die in the battlefield. If you are killed in the battlefield, that is, you are promoted to heaven. But if you are leaving the battlefield, being as a Kshatriya, dishonor will come. Okay, then Krishna talks about Buddhi Yoga or Niskam Karma Yoga. So what is the art of all work? Work in the mode of selfless service. So this is the art of doing any activity. Don't do it for yourself, do it for Krishna. Don't be attached to the results of the world. With resolute determination, with mind focused on Krishna. Whatever activity you perform, keep Krishna in center. Krishna is doing, I am working for Krishna, I am fulfilling the desire of Krishna. So this should be your thinking. Fight simply because it is Krishna's desire. You fight for Krishna, not for yourself. Fight for Krishna, not for yourself. Fight for the benefit of Krishna. If you win, offer it to Krishna. If you lose, then also you offer it to Krishna. It is the desire of Krishna I win the battlefield. It is the desire of Krishna I lost the battlefield. This should be the right thinking. Okay, fight simply because it is the Krishna's desire. And what is the result? Do not get any sinful reaction. If you do it in this way, no sinful reaction will touch you. Able to get out of the cycle of birth and death. By performing your duty in Krishna consciousness, you will be out of the cycle of birth and death. Then Krishna tells about symptoms of self-realized souls. What are the symptoms of self-realized soul? Free from desire to enjoy the senses. The one who is liberated, he is already left all the desires. He has desire, but this desire is for Krishna. So whatever Krishna desire, devotee performs. This is the symbol of liberated soul. And those who are liberated, those who are self-realized, they have a steady mind, firm, focused. Work for Krishna, think for Krishna, work for Krishna. All these, this is called steady, focused mind. And they are indifferent from good and evil. So there is no effect of good and evil. There is no effect of happy and sad. There is no effect of any kind of duality. Any kind of duality will not affect the self-realized soul. They have higher taste in devotional service. So it matters. It matters where you have higher taste. Whether you have higher taste in material life or you have higher taste in spiritual life. Where you have higher taste in samosa vada or you have higher taste in Krishna prasadam. So once you get higher taste in Krishna prasadam, the samosa vada in material world will not taste you. They will be tasteless. Okay, so it matters where you have higher taste. Where you have higher taste in material life or spiritual life. Okay, so control the senses by engaging them in devotional activities. So those who are self-realized soul, they always control their senses. They are very, very focused. They always focus on Krishna. So what is the meaning of focusing on Krishna? Meaning of focusing on Krishna is not just sit idle and think about Krishna. No. You can perform your activity in material life. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to survive in material life. So you have to perform your material duty. But while performing your material duty, keeps Krishna in center. This is the task given by Krishna. I am performing it for Krishna. Whatever profit and loss, it belongs to Krishna. So you will be happy before performing the activity and after performing activity also. No sinful reaction will touch you. No duality will come to you. So being thus situated, at the time of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. So the self-realized soul always focus on Krishna. They always chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So they always do Sankirtana Yajna. This is the instruction given by Supreme Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave Mahamantra. He gave us Mahamantra. And in Mahamantra, it has higher taste. It has higher taste. So if you chant Mahamantra every moment, you will not get bored. While when you sing Bollywood song, Tollywood song, any other song, any material poem, you can recite once, twice, thrice, fourth time you may get bored. But if you chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra many times, you will not get bored. So Krishna has given energy, has put energy inside the Mahamantra. So as much you can chant, it will give you more energy to chant. Okay? And you will never get bored. It has higher taste. Okay? So one who is not connected with the Supreme or not doing devotional service cannot have steady mind. Cannot have steady mind, or peace or happiness, or peace or happiness. Okay, if you are performing devotional service, you will be away from duality. You will be always happy. You will have steady mind. You will have peace. So peace, in 5.29 we have seen, what is the peace formula? Devotional service is the only peace formula. Working in Krishna consciousness is the only peace formula. There is no other alternative. There is no other alternative. So one who is not connected with the Supreme or not doing the devotional activity. So if you are not connected to Krishna, connecting to Krishna means what? Connect your all activities to Krishna. Karma Yoga. Work in Karma Yoga. So by working in Karma Yoga, in 5.29, Krishna has told, in chapter number 5, Krishna has told, or this is the summary of chapter number 5, that peace formula is only can be achieved by devotional service, by performing Krishna consciousness activity. Okay, so this is the summary of chapter number 2. Then summary of chapter number 3. So Arjuna asks, why Lord Krishna wants him to fight? Now in chapter number 1, Krishna got confused. In chapter number 2, Krishna answered few questions and asked, and the entire summary of Bhagavad Gita is discussed in chapter number 2. Now in chapter number 3, Arjuna is still confused. Arjuna asks, why Lord Krishna wants me to fight? Okay, so Lord recommended Buddhi Yoga. Lord condemned fruitive activities. Okay, so Lord recommended Buddhi Yoga. Arjuna confuses Buddhi Yoga as retirement from active life. Arjuna confused with Buddhi Yoga that it is the retirement from active life. No, Buddhi Yoga means what? Perform your activity by keeping Krishna in center. Okay, and Krishna condemned fruitive activities. According to Arjuna, the war was a fruitive activity. War was the will of Krishna. War was not the fruitive activity. That if I lose, I will die, I will go to heaven, or if I win, I will enjoy the kingdom. Okay, so war was the will of Krishna, because there were at that time there were so many sinful persons were there who were destroying the society. So many persons were there. So Krishna wanted this war should happen. By this war, Krishna can eliminate all these unwanted things from the world, from the society. And Krishna comes in this world, in this material world, to perform such activity. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Okay, so Krishna comes himself, or before coming Krishna himself, he sends his representative, devotees, demigods, to perform such activity. So if they are not able to do it, then Krishna himself comes. So, abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamya. Okay, so Lord Krishna says he has actually recommended one process with two stages, that is karma and jnana. Karma yoga and jnana yoga. If you have jnana, by having this jnana, you can perform karma. Okay, and these karma and jnana are part of yoga. If you are performing karma and jnana in sync with Krishna, then it is pure. So Lord Krishna replies that there are two ways to realize self. There are two ways to realize self. Sankhya Yoga, analytical study, purifying senses by philosophical process. So Sankhya Yoga is the analytical study. Okay, and Karma Yoga, that is Niskam Karma, Buddhi Yoga, working in devotion. So Niskam Karma, Buddhi Yoga is the working in devotion. So whatever you perform it for Krishna. Then it becomes Buddhi Yoga, Karma Yoga. Okay, then Krishna talks about what is the Sankhya Yoga, analytical study? Soul active by nature. Okay, souls cannot sit at one place. It is active by nature. Giving up work without purification of materialistic contamination will not get perfection. In Sankhya Yoga, Krishna is saying more or less that it is not proper. Sankhya Yoga is not proper. There are chances that you can fall down. But you perform Karma Yoga, you perform devotional service, there are less chances of falling down. Okay, one will be pretender as the senses may be restrained, but the mind will dwell on sense objects. Okay, one will be pretender as the senses may be restrained, but the mind will dwell on the sense objects. So when you have philosophical, we have done philosophical study, there are chances of to fall down. So one will be pretender as the senses may be restrained, but the mind will dwell. Okay, you are very, very disciplined and all doing perform yoga and you are in dhyana, but at one particular moment you will be in dhyana, your mind will be steady, other moment it will be not steady. Okay, so it is very flexible. Mind never reside at one place. It has very high speed. Now at one particular moment your mind is here, at another moment it will be somewhere in London, somewhere in some other planet. Okay, so this is about Sankhya Yoga. Then comes Karma Yoga, Niskam Karma, Buddhi Yoga. What is Karma Yoga? Niskam Karma or Buddhi Yoga. Working in devotion is known as Karma Yoga. It means you have offered the results of action, fruits of action to Krishna. Okay, so the one who is learned performing work in devotion, Krishna consciousness. What is work in devotion? It is a Krishna consciousness. So one's prescribed duty is better than not performing any work. Okay, so what you have to do, where you are not perfect in your activity, but you perform it. So perform your activity better than performing others' activity. This is the job of learned person. And what is the result? Work in devotion performed for satisfaction of Vishnu will cleanse the heart of materialistic propensities and make one free from bondage. Okay, so if you are performing the activity in Krishna consciousness, will cause the result will be liberation. You will get liberation by performing such activity. If you perform any activity in Krishna consciousness, this will become the cause of liberation. Okay, so what is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita? Work only for Lord Krishna. That is what told in entire Bhagavad Gita. Work for Krishna, walk for Krishna, think for Krishna, do for Krishna, everything for Krishna. Okay, so work for Krishna without self motivation, without your own benefit. I am doing it for Krishna because Krishna has given me this task. So whatever fruits of action come, it is all offered to Krishna. Okay, don't do it, don't perform it for your own benefit. Perform it for Krishna's benefit. Perform it to fulfill the desire of Krishna. It is the Krishna's will, I am doing this activity. Okay, following teachings faithfully. Whatever teachings we have found in scriptures, we have got it from spiritual master, from devotees. You have to perform for it. And you should be free from lethargy, free from bondage. You will attain perfection. If it is free from lethargy, from bondage, you will attain perfection one day. It is 100% sure. And there is a lust, all devouring enemy. So lust is a all devouring enemy. Sitting places of lust are senses, mind, intelligence, covers soul's knowledge. How to conquer lust? By regulating senses, performance of duties with detachment, steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness. How we can conquer the lust? You can engage your senses unto the lotus feet of Krishna. Serve Lord Krishna, serve devotees, listen Bhagavatam, listen, hear Bhagavad Gita lecture. There are so many places from where you can purify the senses, you can engage the senses. Because these senses are active in nature. They will not reside at one place for a moment. Every moment, second, now and then, they are just wandering here and there at very high speed. So what you have to do? You have to engage these senses unto the lotus feet of Krishna, unto the service of lotus feet of Krishna. Okay, that is the part of summary of chapter 3. Then in chapter 3 there is also ignorant. If one cannot perform work in devotion with detachment, then perform work as prescribed in the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas by performing yoga, sacrifices for the pleasure of Vishnu. If you cannot perform in Karma Yoga, then perform in Karma Kanda as described in the Vedas. And if you are learned, if you are experienced, then you perform it, your action in such a way that others can learn. Okay, if elders do right things, younger follows. If there are big shots, big persons are performing right things, the younger will follow. Okay, so you have to act to set an example. One fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness has no other duty to perform. and by working thus with detachment, one will attain the Supreme. Perfected soul still perform one's prescribed duties with detachment. To set an example, that is, example Janaka, Lord Krishna, they perform their duty always. Okay, so you have to follow in the footsteps of Janak Maharaj, in the footsteps of Lord Krishna. Okay, there are many kings in the past, they have performed their duty. Okay, so that is the Krishna consciousness. If you perform Krishna consciousness, your child will also follow the same process. Your family will also follow the same process slowly. Chapter 4. Then summary of chapter 4. So Lord Krishna reveals transcendental knowledge in chapter 4 and concludes. Krishna commands Arjuna to destroy his doubts by spiritual knowledge. Krishna is telling Arjuna, Krishna, oh Arjuna, you can destroy your doubt with the spiritual knowledge, armed with yoga. Stand and fight. Armed with yoga. Yoga means what? You are attached your everything to Krishna. So when you attach your everything to Krishna, you will automatically perform Krishna consciousness activity. So that is the you are performing activity in yoga. Okay, so Krishna is saying, armed with yoga, stand and fight. Whatever I am saying, you just follow it. You don't think about any sinful activity. So we all should follow in the footsteps of Arjuna. So whatever Krishna is saying, Arjuna is doing. Arjuna is a very good student. And Lord Krishna is very good teacher. Okay, so Arjuna is an excellent student, and Krishna, Lord Krishna, is excellent teacher. Okay, Lord Krishna appearance and activities are transcendental. His appearance and activities are transcendental. Okay, so Lord Krishna was always looking like a 16 years boy. Always. When Krishna was of 125 years old, still he was looking as a 16 years old boy. So when he was of 125 years, he was having the grandchildren, but he was still looking at 16 years boy. Okay, so Lord Krishna's appearance and activities are transcendental. Krishna remembers about all past, while Arjuna forgets. So Krishna can remember everything, present, past, future, but Arjuna cannot. Reasons of his appearance: deliver the pious, paritranaya sadhunam, vinasaya cha duskritam, yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharat abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamiham. Okay, so Krishna comes to deliver the pious. Killing the demons is not the primary activity of Krishna. The primary activity of Krishna is to deliver the pious. Killing the demon is the secondary. Demon even can be killed by his representative, but delivering the pious cannot be done any other than from Krishna. Okay, so Krishna's appearance, the reason of primary reason is delivering the pious, annihilate miscreants, re-establish dharma. So whenever there is decline in dharma, Krishna appears. Okay, so prime purpose is satisfy his unalloyed devotees. Krishna's prime Krishna's appearance prime purpose is to satisfy his unalloyed devotees. Karma doesn't apply Krishna. This karma doesn't apply to Krishna because this karma belongs to material nature. And we are all living entities are working in this material nature. This karma belongs to us, but karma doesn't belong to Krishna. So one who understands, do not take birth again. If you know all these things, why Krishna appears, what is transcendental knowledge, all, you are freed from the birth and the cycle of birth and death. Krishna reciprocates according to degree or surrender. How much you study, accordingly you can score in exam. How much you are perfect devotee, accordingly Krishna reciprocates. Accordingly you can understand Krishna. You can understand Krishna, only Krishna reveals himself. Like in material, you snatch any particular thing from the person, but in spiritual world you cannot snatch. In spiritual world, the only instrument is devotional service. Through devotional service, you can get Lord Krishna. You can surrender unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So everyone ultimately surrenders to Krishna, for it is a Krishna who awards fruits of work. So Krishna can only award fruits of work. You perform any material activity, you get the fruits of action. So it is the will of Krishna only that you are getting fruits of action. It is not like it is my work, it is my hard work, it is my hard earned money. No, it was the Krishna's will that you got it. So is there any harm if you offer it to Krishna? Because Krishna, it has come from Krishna. Just offer it once, oh Krishna, thank you. Okay, so like this you can pray, you can offer the fruits of action to Krishna. Krishna creates varnashrama system. Krishna creates varna ashrama system. So there are 4 varnas: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and 4 ashramas: Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi. So these 4 varna and 4 ashrama is created by Krishna himself. Okay, so while living in material world, you can follow varnashrama system and you will be liberated one day. Automatically you will be liberated if you are following all these varnashrama system. So Krishna creates the varnashrama system according to the modes. He is beyond the system. So this varnashrama system is created by Krishna, but Krishna is independent from this varnashrama system. So this varnashrama system doesn't apply to Krishna. All liberated souls act without becoming entangled. Knowing Krishna gives result and creator of varnashrama. So who is called as liberated? The one who is free from material pangs. Knowing Krishna gives result. If you know Krishna, you are freed from the material world. Okay, so Arjuna should therefore perform his duty and fight for Krishna. Arjuna should, which is very important now, Arjuna should fight for Krishna, not for himself. I am going to kill. No. You just fight. Nimitta matram. If you become the instrument of Krishna, so whatever activity you perform, it will be free from sinful reaction. That is the guarantee given by Krishna here. But with detachment. Whatever activity you perform, don't be attached to it. Don't be attached to it. Okay. Krishna explains the intricacies of action. How learned man in full knowledge acts and is unaffected by the reactions of work. So those who are learned, they know. They are liberated. Why? because they know these all activity, the fruits of action belongs to Krishna. Renounces self-interested actions, acts only for the Supreme, giving up all sense of proprietorship, acting only for the acting only for the necessities. So Krishna, how learned man in full knowledge acts and is unaffected by the reactions of world. So the one who is learned, they are unaffected by the material contamination. Renounces self-interested actions. They don't perform any activity for themselves. Acts only for the Supreme. They do it for Krishna. Giving up all sense of proprietorship. Acting only for the bare necessities of life. So whatever things are required to survive in material life, they only work for that. Other time they are engaged in Krishna consciousness activities. So Krishna describes different types of sacrifice recommended in Vedas. Okay, if you are following Vedas, there are many sacrifices are mentioned in the Vedas, you can follow that. It all goes to Krishna only. You may perform it for demigods, but demigods are top class Vaishnavas. They don't accept anything for themselves. They accept and they give it to Krishna. So that is the indirect offering. You have a chance offering directly, you can direct offer it to Krishna, Lord Vishnu. So Krishna describes different types of sacrifice recommended in Vedas. That culminates into transcendental knowledge. So if you perform sacrifices mentioned in Vedas, it will culminate into transcendental knowledge. So Krishna reveals process for attaining transcendental knowledge by approaching a self-realized guru. Jnaninas tattva darshinah. Jnaninas tattva darshinah. तद्विद्धि प्रणिपातेन परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदेक्षन्ति ते ज्ञानम ज्ञानिनस्तत्त्वदर्शिनः. Okay, so follow the instructions of Guru. Ultimate knowledge is that all jivas are part of Krishna. So Krishna is saying that all jivas are part of Krishna. All the living entities, non-living entities are part and parcel of Krishna. Soul is part and parcel of super soul. Living entity and part and parcel of Krishna. So Krishna is a whole and we are all part and parcel of that whole. So ultimate knowledge is that all jivas are part of Krishna. So transcendental knowledge destroys karmic reactions. Transcendental knowledge destroys karmic reaction, and brings attainment of the supreme spiritual peace. So if you have transcendental knowledge, your knowledge will not be contaminated by any external things. It is already purified. The supreme spiritual peace. Transcendental knowledge destroys karmic reactions and brings attainment of the supreme spiritual peace. Faithless, however, attain neither happiness nor God consciousness. That is the summary of chapter number 4. Now we will see chapter number 5. Okay, what is the summary of chapter number 5? Okay, so summary of chapter number 5 we'll see next time. So we'll end the meeting today over here. We'll stop. If you have any question you can ask, or we'll Okay, so no question. So we'll end the meeting. श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण।